I'm gonna take my hat off. You'll know why later. That's for improvement purposes. I'm lying on the surgical table, which is covered with plastic so that my blood could be wiped off easily. Ever since I was a little girl, 7, 8 years old, I tiptoe to look in the small broken mirror hanging in the bamboo frame on the wall of our house. Twisting my head this way and that way, I always wanted with all my heart to look like the pretty girls in the magazines. You know, the ones with golden hair and eyes as wide as saucers and lips painted scarlet red. But the face looking back at me every time was ugly. My lips hung from my face like I was stung by a bunch of bees. And my eyes, when I smiled, they closed, they became slits, and when I laughed, they just closed completely. But the thing that I hated, can this come up? But the thing that I hated the most was my nose. It looked like a train ran over it, leaving behind a flat space between the two ends. I always thought that confidence came with good looks. At first, I wore hats to hide my scraggly cornhusk hair. But then, barely out of my teenage years, 19 was a low point in my life, and I did something that was impulsive, something that I regretted deeply later. I changed the features of my face surgically under local anesthesia. Yeah. Yes. I can hardly believe that I did that, but I did. Later, years later, when I was living in Texas, well, first of all, I was thrilled with the outcome after the bloody face and the healing and everything. I was thrilled. My eyes were as wide as saucers and my lips were thinner and sexier. But best of all, I had a bridge in my nose. You know, the pretty version of me that I always dreamed of, there I was. And then, years later, I'm cutting my story short because I have 7 minutes. Years later, when I lived in Texas, all of a sudden, the tip of my nose, there was like a little pimple, and I go in front of the mirror and I tried to squeeze the pimple, but not, it just kept coming and it wouldn't get better. And then I went to the doctor, and the doctor said to me, he said, did you know that over 500,000 women around the world, Asian women and ethnic women, have this surgery all the time? Did anyone tell you that the bridge in your nose has a shelf life? Of course, I had no idea. He sent me to a sinus doctor, who said to me, as a matter of fact, in the same office, they decided that if I didn't have surgery immediately, that this infection would go to my brain. And so I didn't have the money for anesthesia again, the second time. I had surgery under local anesthesia to take the bridge out of my nose. And this was, well, it was only after all of these things happened that I became aware that confidence does not come from the outside. Beauty is not the thing you see when you look in the mirror. Confidence comes from within. It's not made. When we remember who we are before the world told us who to be, this realization became the foundation of the work as a confident advocate for women later. I've helped throughout the years women come home to themselves through remembrance, through self-expression, but most of all, through their own courage. Tell me my time. Through their own courage. I've lived the silence. Well, I ran away from home when I was 16 and crossed the Atlantic Ocean in a boat with 4 men to the neighboring country of Venezuela, with one wish that somewhere out there, freedom was waiting for me. The timelines are skewed, but I wanted you to hear this. The freedom was waiting for me. But I'll tell you, freedom doesn't come easy when you're brought up with little girls should be seen and not heard. The religion was suffocating me. And dancing was forbidden. But I'll end this by saying, I've lived the silence and I've made the shift. And I'm here to tell you today that your silence can become confidence. And that confidence is what makes the impossible possible. Aristotle said it best. He said the best journey, the most important journey that you will ever make in your life is the one back to yourself. Thank you. Thank you very much.